Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our NAR Candidate Forum. Today is your opportunity to meet the NAR directors, which we will be voting on in May. LIBOR leaders should better know who the candidates are, and today is your chance to meet both of them. To start off today's conversation, we have Daryl Brown. He is running for what is your position, Daryl, you're running for?
Technically, it's for first vice president for 23 in order to be president in 25. Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And we're going to make this a good use of time and let Daryl speak. So Daryl, the floor is yours.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me here. It's truly a pleasure to get a chance to be in front of the Long Island board again. Spent significant time with you guys back in 2012 when I was a national fundraising liaison, and then again in 2016 as your Realtor Party director. And I first want to give a huge shout out for the challenges that the Long Island board, which has with as many practicing real estate professionals as you have, as opposed to how many you actually have that are members of the Realtor Association. And I commend you once again for all the work that you've done, not only in RPAC, but in everything that you've done to help Long Island and the consumers out there. So it's a pleasure to be back in touch with you. I wish I was with you in person. Look forward to being with you in person again. But in the interim, we'll do it this way. So hi, good morning. My name is Daryl Brown, and yes, I am a candidate running for 2023 NAR First Vice President, which technically means I'm running to be NAR President in 2025. And I get a lot of people that ask me, I try to do these things where I'm really trying to hear from you and answer your questions. But especially in a webinar format, I get a lot of people that ask me, like, you got to tell us a little bit about yourself. So here's a little bit about myself. I'm the son of immigrants. I'm an immigrant. I'm born and raised in northern Manitoba, Canada. So if you hear me say the word about or against, or if I slide an A in there, that's why. So my apologies in advance. But I'm born and raised in northern Manitoba, Canada, and moved down to the United States in the mid 90s to start a real estate company and a development company, and have basically been in real estate ever since. My dad was a Mountie, so the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. So that, you picture Dudley Do-Right with the bright red outfit with the big hat. That was my dad. And I was always raised that hard work and perseverance pays off, and there's a difference between right and wrong, and all the gray stuff in the middle is why we have to have attorneys to figure out what our intention was. So I was the kid that I couldn't get away with anything when I was younger, because anything that I would do in our small town of 834 people, by the time I got home, my dad was the sergeant in town with the police, and he was the one that knew what I'd done wrong before I even got home. So I didn't get away with anything as a kid. As an adult, it has been a huge help for me to really understand when you believe in something and the difference between right and wrong. I've had the pleasure of teaching our NAR code for almost 20 years. And I've always said, if it doesn't look right, feel right, or smell right, it probably isn't right. And I got that from my dad. So I'm very proud of that. So moved to the States in the mid 90s and started a real estate company. I've been involved in residential real estate, in commercial real estate, in new construction real estate. And I've built things. I've built companies. I started as a chief bottle washer, janitor. I was technically the accountant, but for our startup company back in the mid 90s, and built that up and bought it. And then in the peak of 2013-14 era, when we got over that cycle, was able to sell it at the right time. Built another company, sold it, started my coaching company. And right now I'm involved in a company where I'm in real estate every day. We've got about 250 agents in multiple locations. I do existing homes, new construction homes. We have a new construction company, a title company, a mortgage company. And I'm in this every single day. I'm one of you. I'm a member. I've been practicing every day for over 20 years. And then just as many of you, excuse me, got involved with the association because I was voluntold. And quite frankly, our association executive at the time, her name's Judy Gerke. She's now retired. I'm a big guy. I'm about almost 6'6", and she's about 4 foot nothing. And she called me on the phone over 20 years ago and started reaming me a new one because I'd missed a committee meeting. And after felt like about 20 minutes of getting my butt chewed, it was only a few minutes, we realized she put me on the committee and forgot to tell me she put me on the committee. And then her response to that was, well, if you missed a second meeting in a row, you're really going to be in trouble. And that's how I got involved. And ironically, that just happened to be an MLS committee. And then I've had my journey ever since. And you've either got a copy or you'll be getting a copy of my brochure, and I'll be sending you guys some information as we ratchet up to the elections in May. But I've had the pleasure of having experience of over 20 years experience on the MLS side of our industry and almost 20 years experience on the realtor party side of our industry. And as our industry, as NAR, is really built in two pieces, I truly believe that leadership in both of those pieces is critically important. And the MLS side is our pro standards, what it means to be a realtor, our ethics, all of our governance, and of course, all of our MLS. And then the other side is all of our advocacy. And to have been the Realtor Party Director nationally in 2016, which quite frankly was the only year that NAR has ever achieved 100% participation under the team that I was a part of that year. I think that's a huge part of what we need to have in leadership, especially right now. And the reason being is the foundation of our industry is how we share information and how we cooperate. And we now have, according to Katie Johnson just yesterday, 10 lawsuits that are coming at us, all wrapped around our MLS. And the basic premise of these lawsuits is driven by the DOJ, as well as some private companies, but the DOJ, that is saying that it creates unfair practices, and they don't believe in buyer's agency and how we get paid. They think that it's unfair to consumers. The challenge that I have with this is that they don't understand how our MLS works, and they don't understand how our business works. We're going to be in front of Congress testifying. And for those of you who have been watching or hearing about the Supreme Court nominee that's being grilled right now for the third day, I've talked to some NAR Distinguished Service Award recipients that have said that they get their talking points from NAR, and that lasts for about 20 or 30 minutes. But there are times where NAR leaders are up in front of Congress getting grilled for 4 or 5 hours about a topic. We believe that this topic is going to have us being grilled by Congress. And we need to have somebody that understands the complexities of our MLS so we can simplify it for Congress so that they don't come after our industry and change it. And make no mistakes about it, one of the biggest reasons why they're trying to change it, we are a $200 billion a year commission income industry. And over 92% of our income that is made out of that 200 billion is filed annually in taxes through small businesses. If the government can get us to pay on payroll, they get their taxes every 2 weeks, and all of the small business benefits that we get taken away from us if our organized real estate as we know it stops. And that's what we're fighting for. Our very existence as independent contractor real estate agents is what we're fighting for. And as Katie Johnson from NAR said just yesterday, this is the worst NAR has ever in the history of NAR been under attack. So this is what's coming in the next few years. And I think right now more than ever, we need to make sure that our elected leaders have experience in both sides of that aisle so we can fight for our existence. And that's one of the reasons why I'm stepping into this now. And so with that, I think that's plenty enough about me. Sir, I'm going to leave this to you now to start asking me any questions you want and dig in as much as you want. Nothing's off the table.
Thank you very much, Daryl. And that was very informative. So some of the questions will overlap, but it'll help crystallize what you just said. And I'm just going to start with the first one. Very simply, what do you hope to accomplish as NAR president?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I want to accomplish is that we're divided right now as the realtor community. And for those of you on the screen, especially those of you that are directors, if you've been watching on the Hub, which is really our communications platform that we created many years ago, it's changed now. I don't think it's working the way that it was initially intended to work, but it is a communications platform, and you can see how divided our membership is. And just look at some of the stuff that's happened over the last 18 to 24 months within the communications that are on that Hub. And we're divided. We're doing this right now. And the problem is that we are under attack from outside, and we have common enemies from outside. The biggest thing that I want to accomplish is we need to do this. And here's what I mean. We have for many, many years had a lot of excellent leaders that have come through our association. Unfortunately, we've also heard that there's a bit of a club or a bit of a group. And it becomes, who you know and who you've been involved with and who your friends are. At the association level, one of the best things that I've realized around the country is we have incredible talent at every level of our organization. And some of that talent doesn't get an opportunity to actually come up to the top and do this. I'm a unifier. And right now is the time that we need to unify. And the number one thing that I want to accomplish is to listen more to our big boards, to listen more to our big states. I can't tell you enough how much I am told as I travel the country Well, NAR just does its own thing and we take care of our straight. And I know this in Long Island, you guys have very unique challenges that you have to deal with every day that really aren't even most members at NAR aren't even familiar with. And that's what needs to change. So my answer to that question is I want to unify us, and I want national leadership to listen more rather than to come in and tell you what we're doing. I want to find out what you need from us.
All right. Thank you, Daryl. So you mentioned something earlier on about the two parts, MLS and the association side. So I'm going to change this question a little bit. And in a sentence for each, what do you wish everyone knew about NAR, all the members knew about NAR, and what do you wish all the members understood about MLS?
What I wish that the members understood about NAR is the power of our advocacy. What I wish that members understood about our MLS is that we have incredible talent that is going to be able to protect your ability to earn a living. To expand on both of those, with the change of what happened with started with the Clinton era and Citizens United, and how it changed how we lobby in DC, it changed how NAR does our advocacy. And we have said for years that it's the grassroots level advocacy that is most important, because we get to impact things that happen at the local board level before they become a statewide thing, before all the governors get to talk and it becomes the federal thing. And you'll hear a lot of times people will talk about advocacy in Washington, D.C. and how important that is. And of course it is. However, advocacy is the grassroots advocacy that starts. And our ability to unify our members around how that can impact their future at their local level is massively significant. And so that is critically important to what we do. However, especially today, if you had to put in order, advocacy is critical to what we do. However, if we don't have organized real estate, because the DOJ in these lawsuits basically disbands organized real estate as we know it, we don't have anything to advocate for. If we had a survey that came out that said 88% of our members only join NAR because they have to get access to their MLS. So let's just unpack that. 88% of our members join NAR in order to have access to the MLS. If through this MLS lawsuit from the DOJ, our MLS as we know it goes away, and all of our data is available on realestatedata.com, let's say, we don't have an MLS anymore, 88% of our members potentially leave. We don't have anything to advocate for anymore because our organization is completely reinventing itself because it has to. So I think we need to deal with our MLS issue and make sure that we have organized real estate to advocate for. And I go back to Katie she said, in all of the 114-year history of our organization, we have never been under attack the way we're under attack right now. So that's critical for us to pay attention to.
I have a couple of questions we'll also tailor to your responses there. So outside of the DOJ lawsuits and the other lawsuits that we're facing, as Katie said,
yep,
what do you see as our biggest advocacy issues in the next few years?
Well, I think the biggest challenge that we're going to have is that we have a shift in Congress. If you look right now, what's changing in the electorate body, and because of what's happened with COVID, because of what we see coming with interest rate changes, because of what we see coming with inflationary changes, I think our biggest difficulty that we have right now is as Lawrence Yun talks about, we're right now at a point where we have 7.5 million too few homes in the country for us to sell. 7.5 million. So for those of you who have been around a long time, if you remember about 10, 11 years ago, Lawrence said, we have 650,000 homes a year being built too few. So we're 650,000 too few new construction homes being brought on the market every year. Fast forward 11 years from when he first started saying that, now we have 7 million too few homes. So housing affordability is a massive impact, and affordable housing within all of our communities is a massive impact. And I think we can use that as a learning opportunity to educate Congress on, we need to make sure that we are advocating for how we fix this, because 10 years from now, especially with changing interest rates and with COVID and supply chain issues and inflation, we could be at a point where housing affordability is, we've written off the entire opportunity for first-time home buyers across the country. So that is a massive thing that we need to be fighting for. I think we also need to be really continuing our education on truly what diversity, equity, and inclusion means. I think there's a lot of I don't want to say buzzwords, but for lack of a better term, there's a lot of people that kind of glom onto buzzwords that really, I'm a middle-aged white guy. I mean, I'm sure you can see, I'm no filters on my screen. I'm a middle-aged white guy. But holy, do we ever have talent that understand diversity, equity, inclusion, and the challenges within our communities and all across the country. And it truly is a matter of bonding that talent together to be able to make sure that we're educating Congress so that they are not overstepping what we need, but that they are actually addressing how we can impact the needs of those that we need to be paying attention to. And I think those two issues are going to be really massive things coming forward in the next several years that we really are going to need to be stepping up in a unified way to make sure that we can not only build out our communities in a very diverse way, because if you look at statistically where we were 20 years ago and where we are today and where we project we're going to be 20 years from now in the diversity in our communities, it's a massive shift. And we need to be ahead of that. And at the same token, we need to make sure that we're fighting for housing affordability in ways that we weren't fighting for in the last 10 years, because that shortage is really going to impact us tied on to the other issues that we have today. I hope that answers your question, Kevin.
That answers several questions, Daryl. So thank you for that. And I'm going to actually tie that together into a question because you touched on DEI.
Yep.
And you are actually touching on the importance of all the things that DEI touches. So here's a question.
Right.
Diversity, equity, inclusion are an important focus of our association. Okay, we are a large and very diverse association. Yep. What is NAR currently doing? The conversations that you're hearing to embrace members' diversity, reach out in a more diverse fashion than they have to champion the realtor cause in neighborhoods where we're not all that present. And also in leadership, to advance leadership and to look at systems of how leaders move forward that give opportunity to everyone based on talent and not necessarily based on structure.
Well, and so that's a fabulous question. And for those of you who have had a chance to see my videos, if you go to letsgo23.com, so that's my campaign website, and the tie-in is our theme is Let's Go. And it's for the election in 23. So we specifically didn't want to say, Daryl for NAR, which, historically, it's always the candidate's name for NAR. And I'm not running for me, I'm running for you. And the Let's Go 23.com, where my videos are, if you go and watch my very first video, about halfway through the video, it talks about us opening doors for all. And the reason why I say that is because one of the biggest challenges that we have with DEI, and you can see how much of an impact NAR is starting to make by what President Elizabeth Mendenhall did by raising awareness in 2018. And as I said, I've been teaching ethics for almost 20 years. And did you know up till and including the mid 1950s, for over 30 years, it was in our code that we as realtors were expected to discriminate. It was part of our ethics. And it really showed the history of what was happening at the time, that members thought they were doing the right thing, that history dictates. It goes, whoa. Well, then President Charlie has done a great job of really ratcheting up the focus on how we need to be looking at really being inclusionary, not just in the talking points level, but what we do. And he openly apologized. Now, I will say I'm not 100% sure that I agree that we should have openly apologized without some context. So I'm great that we did. I think the context is that we were doing what we thought was the best thing for our communities 50, 60, 70 years ago, but look at how far we have come. So we're sorry for what happened, but look at what we've been doing since the 1970s and specific targeted things to improve. I think how we do a better job of it is twofold, stems two ways. The first one is that if you talk to our institute societies and councils, they will say that they are largely pushed aside from NAR. It's big NAR and the little societies and councils. We have started and stopped really pulling those councils forward, but we have an opportunity to put them in the forefront, especially with what's happening with diversity and how we need to change our focus. We can pull them forward. And I think the second thing is, and you touched on this, is we have incredible talent around the country, but sometimes it's hard to find them. And the reason why it's hard to find them, I've actually served on several PAGs, or presidential advisory groups at the national level, and work groups over the last 15 years on members and member inclusion and our database. So you may have seen this, Kevin, and you as your members in Long Island may have seen this. is if you don't have a resume this long, this long with NAR, you don't get appointed leadership posts. And I think that's completely wrong. Some of our best talent may only have this much exposure at the national level at NAR, but they have this much talent in communities. They might have ran leadership in our largest churches. They might have been involved in government for the last 20 years. They might have been involved in the largest community outreach program in their community for the last 2 decades. And now real estate is their second or third or fourth career. So we need to tap into the talent that is in our communities that may be new to NAR, but may be bringing some incredible experience that could transform how we operate as an association. And we need to tap into that talent. And the best way to do that is through our database. And we just launched our M1 database, and NAR is now starting to compile data of all that historical leadership experience, especially in these key categories of how we can tap into it. And I will just add, how to say this the right way. It's so much better in person when you see people's body language. But I'm truly not running to put my name on the wall. This is not about me. This is about every single one of you watching this video right now. This is about our membership. This is about unifying us around common causes. And what I'm saying about my answers to you is not necessarily based on me being the expert saying this is how we need to do it. This is based on feedback and knowledge gained over the last 15 years, 20 years of being involved with our association and watching how we can do a better job listening to you. And so I really want to make sure that everybody on this call understands I truly am running to be a unifying leader for all of us. I am not running because it's about me. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with you as the member and how we can come together to impact these changes. So I hope that makes sense, sir.
It certainly does. I'm going to ask a one-word, a question, just looking for the one word yes or no answer on this.
Got it.
And I have a final question and then some just for you to leave us with your final thought.
Got
it.
So
you mentioned about these other people with less experience. And there's something that we say here on Long Island is that intelligence and capacity are more important ingredients than time served. So it seems like you're saying a version of that. So are you saying that the culture might be a little too narrow thinking and bringing in these other thoughts as helping NAR make change?
Yes, absolutely. 100% I am saying that.
Okay, thank you for that one. So here's one that you and I have had a chance to just talk briefly on before. How do you think the NAR governance restructure, and just remember you're here in Long Island and we're going from 14 seats to 10.
Yep.
And we are very diverse. How will that governance restructure benefit local, larger, diverse associations like LIBOR and its members?
So first of all, apologies to Long Island for losing 4 directors. That sucks. I mean, really, truly, that certainly can come across as, if you're trying to be more diverse, why are you shutting us out? And that I think is a perfect example of some of the byproducts that happen when you get a group of people together for several years that are working to transform the governance, and then it just kind of starts doing this into what the final result is. I will tell you that the decisions that have been made are not be all end all set in stone and can't be adjusted. I know that there are several groups right now that are working on, okay, what's the real world implications of this and how do we make this best? One of the opportunities, so I hear you, and I think it's very important that that there are people at the association, at the national association level, that are looking at the negative implications of things that have changed and seeing how we need to adjust. I think some of those byproducts of things that happen, the unintended consequences. My opinion to you is, or my suggestion to you is complain, argue, have your voice be heard, and speak very loudly. I know in my time that I've been working with New York State and with Long Island, you guys don't have a problem voicing your opinion, and I will tell you, speak it loudly and firmly and keep going. Don't be shut down, and don't be afraid to stop talking about it, because there continues to be people working on righting some of the unintended complications that happen because of the changes. I think to answer your question about how boards are getting their voice to be better heard, the challenge is that there was a lot of gerrymandering, if you will, of who was going to get what positions where amongst a bunch of states. And in trying to create a process that would open that up for more people and more voices to be heard, there was a few associations like Long Island's that ended up getting some of their voice taken away. But in the vast majority, what happened with the change is that it opened up the opportunity to force more grassroots involvement and to allow boards that had never had a voice before because of how this gerrymandering worked to have a voice. So if you look around the country, there is now an opportunity for dozens of boards that have always wanted to have their voice be heard at the NAR level that were never allowed to because of how the positions were controlled. So while I feel for Long Island, and I certainly understand, and I certainly get it, and I really want you guys to continue to have your voice be heard about that, so we can write that. In the grand overall the country, it actually is allowing for more voices to be heard from smaller associations, and I think that in the general feel, I think that's a good thing, and it's something that we should be doing. I think the byproduct of what happened there's about 6 boards around the country that had what happened, same as what you did, and there's a way we can fix that. So keep talking about it, because I'm behind making that right as well.
Appreciate that. And we will keep talking about it. So thank you.
Yeah, good. And we'll keep listening.
Leave us with a final thought.
So I think the first thing that I want to say is you guys have probably heard a lot about the old ways of how this gets done and endorsements. I did a really bad job when we started our campaign out, in the sense that I said in my opening video at the very end, I said, welcome to a different kind of campaign. What I meant by that is that I was going to be an inclusive candidate, and I was going to let everybody's voices be heard. So when I was traveling the country in the first few months of the year, or of the campaign, I was telling people, I don't want your endorsement. And so people were going, well, if he doesn't want my endorsement, I'm going to give it to the other guy. And quite frankly, I'm like, well, I guess I didn't look at it that way. So I want to really quickly give you a bit of a history on these endorsements. So number one, I would love to get Long Island Board's endorsement. I truly would be honored to get it, but I'm not asking for it. And here's why. Our whole endorsement process actually ended at the national level about 10 years ago. And most directors and most members don't know this. At the National Association of Realtors level, we used to have something called a nominating committee. And the nominating committee would collect endorsements from candidates and go from around the country, which is what the campaigning was all about. The nominating committee would then go through all of these endorsements and select one member out of all the candidates to put their name forward to the board. So they were basically the selection body. The nominating committee at NAR ended almost 10 years ago. NAR actually now even says they do not recognize nor endorse endorsements. Okay, so why do we do endorsements? Well, number one is if you guys ask the question of associations, why do we do it this way? And if you're heard, that's the way we've always done it. That's one of the biggest problems. If we keep doing what we've always done and expect to get a different result, that's the definition of insanity. But that's what happens. So the reason why I'm very purposely, I'd be honored to get your endorsement. I'd love to have it, but I'm not asking for it because I'm trying to unite us. And at the National Association of Realtors level, every single director on this call that is an NAR director, Katie Johnson, comes up at the beginning of the meetings and says, you have a fiduciary responsibility to cast your vote for what you believe is best for the future of the organization. In the endorsement process, like in the state of New York, you get a group of people together that say, hey, I know this guy and I don't really know that guy, so this is who we're going to endorse. And now you're told in the state of New York, well, this is who we've endorsed. You can vote for whoever you want, but this is who we're going to endorse. Well, from my perspective, if you've endorsed a candidate and your state or your local board is giving you a stipend to go to a national level meeting, is that not going to somehow change how you might vote? Of course it is. And yet we're told in our fiduciary that you need to vote the way your heart tells you to vote. So here's what I want to tell you. I'm running to be your president. I'm not part of a group. I'm not part of a club. I want to select people who are part of the leadership team of the National Association of Realtors based on talent and based on what they bring to the table, based on the issues that we have at the time. I'm not going to appoint positions for my friends. I haven't promised any single person across the country a position, and I won't, because I totally believe in Jim Collins' good to great. That is, we only have so many seats on the bus and only so many qualified butts to sit in those seats. And I'm looking for the best qualified people to sit in the right seats. So it has nothing to do with who I might have promised what to, and nothing to do with favors that I'm owed because of how I'm playing the political game of endorsements, because that's not what we are. That's not who we are. So I'm asking all of you to pay attention to what we're saying as candidates, to come to the candidate forum in May, to pay attention to what we put out between now and the end of May. Look at what our campaign stuff is when you have time leading into May. And when we do ask for your vote on May the 6th, I want you to vote with your heart. And here's why. If you believe in your heart that I'm the right guy at the right time for our association, which obviously, of course, I do, but if you believe in your heart I'm the right guy, vote for me. And if you believe in your heart I'm not the right guy, then don't vote for me, because I truly want what's best for we. And I just want to encourage all of you, let your voice be heard, speak with what you believe in your heart, and let's together impact our association and move our association forward. It's got nothing to do with me and what I want to do. I totally believe in the leadership style of the best leaders in the country surround themselves with people that are way smarter than them. And we talked on the call before we got started with the webinar that some of the people that I have had a chance to meet around the country, I am so blessed and impressed and grateful for the incredible talent we have across our organization. And my commitment to every one of you that are in this call, I will go on a listening tour to make sure I understand what's most important for all our membership. We will hone that down to getting back to the basics instead of trying to focus on so many things and not really doing all of them the best that we could, focusing on a few key things that will help all of our members be a little bit more successful. And my promise from the bottom of my heart is, God willing, I win this thing with your help. I promise from the bottom of my heart, I will leave our association a little bit better when my term is done than it was when I got there. I promise. Kevin, my pleasure to be here. For all of you on the seminar, on the webinar, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, Daryl. We'll make sure that your information gets circulated to all who attended.
Perfect. Appreciate it. And you guys all stay safe. And I really look forward to seeing you as the weather continues to get better. Stay safe in these storms. I heard you guys have got a bunch of weather coming up shortly. So
All right.
Stay safe, and we'll see you in May.
Thanks, Daryl.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
We're going to just take a couple of minutes before our next panelist comes on to speak. I don't know if Tessa or Amy, our host, has the chance to give me the starting point on that, but we'll take a few minutes, and then we're going to have Kevin Sears coming up.
Well, President Kevin and the Long Island Board of Realtors, thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you today. You know, I really enjoyed the opportunity to meet with the members over the last several months, really beginning in August. And you know, I'm actually at home. Hello from Springfield, Massachusetts, right up the road from you all, just a couple of hours. And you know, I was thinking back, since I was in Albany for Jennifer Vucetic's installation, I've been home, not including this time, 3 days. 3 days. The first was 2 days in February, and then the other was on March 1st. And what I want to tell you about those 2 times at home before this most recent time is, you know, I'm doing my best to help with our inventory shortage. On each of those times home, I met with sellers to take listings. And you know, I tell you that because I want you to know that I'm fully engaged in the business of real estate. So who am I? My name is Kevin Sears. You know, where do I start? I guess I'll start at the beginning. I've been in real estate since 1971. You might look at me and say I look great. Thank you. I'd like to, I appreciate that. But actually, I was born into the business. I'm second generation realtor here in Springfield. My father started our company over 50 years ago. I've been licensed in a realtor since 1994, so coming up on 30 years. We have a small residential independent company. We have 2 offices. My brother's our broker of record at this point, so he does adult daycare for about 24 realtors on a daily basis. And I run our property management end of things and manage over 500 residential units. So you can imagine I have my hands full with that. But you know, just like you, on a daily basis, I work with buyers, sellers, tenants, and landlords. And actually, let me back up. Since August 2nd, I haven't represented buyers. Being on the campaign trail, if I physically can't be there, I truly can't represent them. So I have someone in the office handle that. But I am engaged in the business. What else can I tell you? You know, when I first got licensed, you know, after I passed the exam, the first thing my father told me was go over to the local association, fill out the application, pay the fees, and join 3 committees. And that was in 1994. And I haven't looked back. And in that time, I've served at the local, the state, and the national level. I was president of my local association in 2005, president of the state association in 2010. Since 2011, so I'll get to that in a second. 1998 really was my first involvement with the National Association of Realtors. I've been a federal political coordinator for Congressman Richie Neal since 1998, so 24 years. And he is a moderate Democrat from Western Massachusetts. He served on Ways and Means committees, the Ways and Means Committee, throughout the time I've been FTC. And once the Democrats took control of the House in the last election, he became chair of Ways and Means. And the reason I tell you that is because any of you that are FPCs out there, I want to say thank you. And if you're not, find your FPCs, your federal political coordinators, for members of Congress, and thank them. Because we are the key contacts to our members of Congress. Chairman Neal oversaw the reconciliation bill last fall, with regards to not only the infrastructure bill, but the Build Back Better. And we as realtors were very nervous about what potentially could happen to our industry based on how these programs were going to be paid for. And I can tell you with no uncertain terms that Congressman Neal and his staff knew exactly how the National Association of Realtors felt when it came to 1031 like-kind exchange, when it came to making sure that capital gains rates remain low. And there were also some other commercial considerations at the time. And so we were very fortunate to come out of that largely unharmed. And I think that all of our FPCs throughout the country had those conversations. So now I'll fast forward to 2011 or 2003. 2003 was the first committee assignment that I had for the National Association of Realtors. At the time, it was called the Political Communications Committee, which morphed into the Realtor Political Involvement Committee, which is now the Realtor Party Member Involvement Committee, RPMIC. So 2003 was my first committee assignment. Since that time, I've served on 11 different committees at the National Association of Realtors. I've chaired 5 of them. I've served on 16 different PAGs and work groups. I've chaired 3 of them. And so really the key to my leadership was, I said in 2010, I was state president. After that, 2011 through today. So in the last 11 years, I've chaired 5 different committees and 3 different PAGs or task forces for the National Association of Realtors. And of those, in those 11 years, 7 different national presidents have asked me to serve in those leadership positions. I just tell you that because I think it's important for you to know that there's a longevity in leadership. What else can I tell you? I'm going to put in the chat just a little information. I think it may have been shared as well. Well, I don't see a chat. I see a Q&A.
And I'll say, Kevin, you don't have to worry. Whatever you want to share, we will get out. Okay.
So it was just going to be my email address and my cell phone number and my website, but that's all on the website. So it's kevin4nar.com. But my cell phone number, the reason I always like giving out my cell phone number, I'm going to say it now, is because I think that's very important for the members to be able to get a hold of their leaders. To have conversations. If you have a want, if you have a need, if you have a concern, I need to know that's my want, my need, my concern. And so my cell phone number is 413-348-9631. Again, 413-348-9631. So, all right, so I've given you a little bit of history about me. Now let me just tell you a little bit about my vision for the National Association of Realtors. One of the things that I'm very proud of is the fact that one of the PAGs that I served on in 2010 was the Political Survival PAG. That came out as a result of the Supreme Court ruling that said that corporations could have free speech in political races. And the Realtor Party, as we know it, is a result of that PAG. So I was very proud to be part of that PAG. I was then, after the PAG concluded, one of 5 realtors from around the country who then was on the implementation team, who traveled the country to let them know, this is the reason we're going to raise the dues by $40. And that was a big deal at the time. And it was a transition for the National Association of Realtors from a trade organization to an advocacy association. And, we haven't looked back. And so then in 2017, we did a revisit of the Realtor Party when I was Vice President of Government Affairs for Bill Brown. And we said, you know what, there's some programs we don't need anymore. There's some programs we need to reinforce and get some more money into. And we did another small dues increase, approximately $18 to continue to fund the programs of the Realtor Party. So our advocacy efforts, not only in Washington, D.C., but for you in Albany, for me in Boston, and then in the towns and cities throughout our local board jurisdiction, it's vitally important that realtors have a voice. And the Realtor Party is really a key for us being able to go into City Hall or the State House or the Capitol and get our message across. So for me, it's I want to see us to continue to advocate and increase our advocacy for our members and our consumers. What else? I'd love to make sure, somebody asked me the question in Illinois, in 5 years' time, and this was last year, this was last fall, so bear with me here. What will you be looking back fondly about? And I said, well, if I'm elected on May 6th, I'll be immediate past president, so that would be pretty cool. I said, but if there's one thing that I could say, it's that I want to make sure that the realtor remains at the center of the transaction. And so how can we do that? We need someone in elected office that has the experience and expertise to make sure that can happen. And you might say experience and expertise. Why are you saying both? Because there is a difference. Experience is having seen it done. And I talked to you about my experience at the National Association of Realtors. But expertise is knowing how to make it happen. And I've been in the position, I've been in the room when decisions are made. I've seen them made, I've seen things implemented, and then I've been in the position where I've had to make the decision and I've had to implement them. So I have both the experience and the expertise. And one of the things that I'll point to that the National Association of Realtors is doing very well right now is our Second Century Ventures. Under the guidance of Mark Birschbach, our Senior Vice President, he has grown our investment portfolio. The Second Century Ventures is a wholly owned for-profit subsidiary of the National Association of Realtors. It started about 15 years ago with approximately $20 million in seed money out of reserves. An additional $5 million was given along the way, and that money has been paid back and then some. But what they're doing is they realize we cannot invent the technology that realtors need to make them successful. Instead, let's find that technology, let's incubate the technology, let's partner with the technology, and that's exactly what Second Century Ventures have done through their REACH program. And the REACH program takes these companies, they interview them, they will give them some guidance, realtors as mentors. They will lead them to grow their business. These are all companies who at one time or another wanted to disintermediate us, wanted to replace us. And what they're realizing is, no. If we partner with realtors, we'll be more successful and they'll be more successful. And right now we have over 155 companies in our portfolio. The unicorn in them was DocuSign. We all know DocuSign, but there are others that are very successful. And the REACH program right now is international. We actually have 6 programs, one in the UK, one in Canada, one in Australia, and then 3 here in the United States. One is for residential purposes, one is for commercial purposes, and then the third one that we're very excited about is it's called the REACH Labs, and they're actually going to be partnering with local associations to help develop and find and partner with local technology companies that can be of assistance to the realtors. So that's very exciting. It's new. It's a new program. So keep your eye out for that. I think Miami is one of the boards that's partnering with them. I think maybe Austin, Texas. So there might be an opportunity for Long Island Board of Realtors down the road as well. And then finally, when I look at the association and I think about where we're at and where we want to go, very much in favor of what we've been doing over the last few years when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think back to 2018 when President Elizabeth Mendenhall, when we were celebrating the 50-year anniversary of the Fair Housing Act, that was the first time that we publicly apologized for being on the wrong side of history. I could not have been more proud of our association at that time because that was a huge acknowledgement. And since then, with President Smaby and Malta, and then last year, Charlie Oppler, challenging all of us to take the At Home with Diversity, which I did, to do the Fair Haven training and the implicit bias training. I look at our association and say, I want to do everything I can to make sure that our association is a reflection of what society is as a whole. And so there's work to do, absolutely. The National Association of Realtors is spending some money, doing some strategic planning, developing programs, but really this has got to be a grassroots effort, just like our advocacy. And so, my hope is that the National Association of Realtors will find local associations that are doing things right, cultivate those programs, and then share them across the country. My leadership style is very collaborative. My plan is to have a big table with a lot of seats at it. And anyone that wants a seat at the table, I'm going to give them a seat. The only thing I'm going to ask is that they have the mental fortitude to fully participate. I don't want to put somebody at the table so I can check a box. And I don't want somebody to sit at the table so they can check a box. I want someone that's fully engaged, because in my history in leadership and involvement in the committees, I do my best to be the most prepared in the room. I roll up my shirt sleeves and I get to work. Someone down in Virginia told me this, Kevin, you're more of a workhorse than a show pony. And I took that as a great compliment, because I love Clydesdales. Those are workhorses, but I digress. So that's a little bit about me. And I think I'll just finish with one other thing you need to know about me and the type of person that I am. We absolutely have some challenges ahead of us. We're currently embroiled in 7, actually, I think it's up to 10 different lawsuits. I think one of the most important ones is with the Department of Justice. And last year when the Department of Justice said, we're not going to abide by the agreement that we made with you, we started making rule changes in our association based on the agreement. And they said, nope, we're not going to do it. I couldn't believe it. And so I was thrilled when the leadership team said, no, we're going to sue the government to enforce the agreement. As a realtor representing buyers, sellers, tenants, and landlords, I've actually had to go to court to enforce performance of a contract. And this agreement is essentially a contract. So I was thrilled by that. But here's the thing. When I look at challenges, and this is what you need to know about me, I can acknowledge challenges, but I'm always looking for opportunities. And where are there opportunities? And right now we have an opportunity, because I think with this I don't want to say timeout, but this pause in the lawsuit because of our suing the government, we have the opportunity to be better, to better educate our members. I think we need to start with the brokers and let the brokers know how what the tools and resources are available to explain to their agents about our value proposition. Because here's the thing, when I represent buyers, I tell them how I get paid. I think that's very important. I don't tell them I work for free. I tell them how I get paid and how I'm going to earn every single penny that I will be paid. And so we need to have those conversations and explain how our MLS as we know it is the most consumer-friendly information vehicle out there. The fact that these outside interests want to dismantle the MLS as we know it, and the Department of Justice is buying into it, we have to tell them the people that they're looking to protect are the consumers. And if we get rid of our system as we know it, the consumers are the ones that are going to be hurt the most. Because here's the thing, folks, you and I will still be able to do business. We'll figure it out. But the buyers, I will feel very bad for buyers if the MLS goes away as we know it. So I think I've talked too long, President Kevin, but I just wanted to let you know a little bit about me, talk a little bit about my thoughts on the association, some of the challenges, but also some of the opportunities that we have.
And we appreciate that very much. We have about 11 minutes left, and I'd like to ask you some questions.
Okay.
And in all fairness, we've asked these questions to your fellow candidate. What do you hope to accomplish as NAR president?
So I'm going to rephrase the question. When I was in Florida, past president of NAR, Kathy Watley, asked me the question. Different presidents have goals for their year. What is your goal going to be? Kevin, would that be a fair
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So knowing that's my thought in answering. And I said, Kathy, I said, here's the thing. If I have a goal for my year, it will live and die with my year if I'm elected. I said, so as a former athlete, what I'm asking is for you to elect me to the team. And then once I'm part of a team, the team will set the goals based on what the members say. What do we need to accomplish for the members? Because if the team buys into the goal, then we can accomplish great things. Like I said, former athlete, great players can win games, but great teams win championships. And so when we set the goal as a team, individually, we're all going to have to do our job and we're going to have to do it well. But at the end of a year, that ball is going to have to be handed off to someone else in order to continue moving it forward. And so, I appreciate the fact that you're wondering what I'd like to accomplish in my year, but until I become part of the team and we're able to sit down and say, what are the goals that we want to accomplish for the members? We can't do that. But I will go back to the story I told about the question I was asked from an Illinois realtor. And for me, it's just making sure that realtors remain at the center of the transaction. Throughout everything else, I need to make sure that we are squarely in the middle of that transaction and make sure that we have the tools and resources available for our members to do that.
That's excellent. Thank you, Kevin. Outside of the DOJ lawsuits, those 10 lawsuits we're talking about, what do you see as our biggest advocacy issues for the next couple of years?
Sure. So definitely taxes. When it comes to it, there's a big tax reform, 4 years ago. And, there were some good things that were done, but in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, a couple of pockets in the center of the country, and then the entire West Coast, there were some issues that came out of tax reform. SALT being one in particular, state and local taxes, and capping that at 10,000. And not only that, doing a marriage penalty. So my wife and I, we filed jointly, but we only get 10,000, whereas if we filed individually, we'd get 20,000. I mean, it's correct those things. So taxes, SALT for sure, maintaining the 1031 like-kind exchange, keeping capital gains rates low. We have to stay on top of that because I just heard yesterday that our national deficit is over $30 trillion. That has to be paid for. How are they going to pay for it? They're going to be looking everywhere. And that concerns me. And that's why that's going to be a very big advocacy challenge for us. Another thing is flood and natural disaster insurance. I told you about my member of Congress, Richie Neal. I actually flew to DC last week I met with Congressman Neal. And I went to an event, the Ireland Fund Gala. He's co-chair of that, and also co-chair of the Ireland Caucus in the U.S. House. But I was able to meet with him, and we talked about flood and natural disaster insurance. In 2012, I advocated for the passage of the Bigger Waters Act. It was a 5-year reauthorization of the National Flood Insurance Program. It expired in 2017. Since that time, it's been 5 years, and we've had approximately 20 short-term extensions. That's, flood insurance is not a Democratic or a Republican issue. It's an American issue. And I think there are sometimes that things transcend parties that we have to explain to our members that they need to do it for the citizens of the U.S., not for each other's party. So I think flood insurance is going to continue to be a big issue. And then I'll just finally say maintaining the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, making sure that we have that. I'd love to see Fannie and Freddie get out of conservatorship. Right now, Congress is just using that, the G fees that they're collecting as an ATM machine, when that really should be used to fund itself and to maintain its own financial integrity. So there are just a couple of items that I see as big advocacy efforts or issues for us moving forward.
Thank you for that.
And Kevin, I'm sorry, and that's at the federal level. At the local and state level, there are some as well, and it's really come to the forefront with the inventory shortage over the last 2 years during COVID, and that is whether it's in Massachusetts or New York or where else, easing zoning restrictions to allow for more construction. The governor of Massachusetts last year, it's like he was reading from the Realtors playbook. He says, here in the Commonwealth, we have underbuilt by approximately 40,000 units per year for the last 25 years. He says, there's a reason that our young people are not staying in the Commonwealth because they don't have housing options. And the reality is we can't fix that overnight. They can't be fixed. I don't even think it'd be fixed in 5 years, maybe not 10 years, but we have to start today at our local and state level to allow for more construction so that we can build our way out of this eventually, because the millennials are the largest generation ever. And if they don't have places to live, that's going to be a significant societal issue for us. So sorry for jumping in there, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. So diversity, equity, and inclusion are very important. It's a very important focus of the Long Island Board of Realtors. What is NAR currently doing to attract more diverse leaders and make opportunity for that, and also to champion the realtor industry in areas that are underserved by realtors?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things. Great question. I touched on DEI earlier, and the fact that we now have some staff people specifically in charge of helping our associations with their diversity, equity, inclusion policies, and the strategic plan that they're developing. It's by acknowledging our past, we can empower our present to shape the future. And we've acknowledged where we were, and I think that today is where we get to empower ourselves to determine where we want to be. I look at a couple of associations that are doing things right. The Chicago Association in particular, a very diverse group. Like I said, I don't think we need to invent things. What we need to do is find who's doing it right, and how can we then share that with others. So for me, I'm all for that. And then there was a second part to the question, Kevin. Could you?
It's getting the realtor involvement. There's people going into a career as a realtor, but not necessarily in these neighborhoods.
So last year, under President Charlie Oppler, there was the Spire program, and it was meant to be a mentorship type program to encourage folks of all backgrounds to get into real estate. I was talking with on the campaign trail, talking with some realtors. I was in Region 9, which is Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas. There might be one other state. And they said, Kevin, why aren't we going into high schools to talk to high schoolers about real estate? I said, that's a great question. I'd love to see some pilot programs of trying that. So there's definitely an opportunity for us to reach out and to continue to do a better job of letting people know about getting into real estate. My biggest concern right now with that, though, is encouraging new people to come into our industry. Right now, we have just shy of 1.6 million members across the country, and that's realtors, not even licensees, just realtors. The latest figure I saw was that we have less than 800,000 listings. So it's almost a double-edged sword. Encourage people to get into the business when there's not enough listings for us all. I just say that, but I am all for making sure that there's representation for all communities in our industry. And I'll go back to saying this. I do believe that the National Association of Realtors has a role to play, but we need to give the tools to our locals and state associations, because they are our grassroots, and it's through the grassroots that we can get up to the grass tops. And the National Association of Realtors, there's going to be plenty of opportunity for people that want to be involved. It's just a matter of identifying them.
Thank you for that. And I'm just going to ask you to re-say a quote so I can phrase my next question correctly. Embrace our past to empower our present.
Acknowledge our past, we can empower the present to shape the future. So by acknowledging the past, we empower the present to shape our future. This is something I said in San Diego at the candidate forum, and it just kind of, as we were talking about it, I was like, I told you how proud I was when President Elizabeth apologized for us being on the wrong side of history. That's very, very powerful. But after the apology, what are we going to do? And that's where that empowers us in the present, in today, to determine where we're going to be tomorrow.
So that leads me to this question. How do you think, knowing that we had an NAR governance PAG that was formed before everything that we learned about fair housing and Long Island Divided and the creation of Fairhaven and the understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion, that we created that governance PAG and made changes to the NAR leadership, to the board of directors, that actually removed from local associations, large local associations like the Long Island Board of Realtors, we lost seats. And the concern for us is that we are actually a very diverse association that is embracing exactly what NAR is talking about, making sure we create opportunities for diverse leaders to come in and add their voice to the room. So how does that PAG benefit us when it removes voices from the areas of our country that have the most diverse membership?
So what I'll tell you about the PAG and the decisions that were voted on in San Diego is that any decision that was made by the board of directors in San Diego can be changed by a future board of directors. And so that's not the only issue that has been brought to my attention about disparity in the change. And so I think that it's going to be key for the remaining voices that you have in your association to share those concerns with leadership, with the executive committee, so that if a change or a tweak needs to be made, it can be made. And what I will say, I did not sit on the PAG, and I know that the PAG was approximately 3 years running. I know they looked extensively and exhaustively at a lot of different things, but does that mean something could fall through the cracks? Absolutely. And so now it's going to be a challenge for you in particular, the Long Island Board of Realtors, to make sure that you have the best people representing you all at the board, so that you can make sure that your voice is heard. I wasn't involved in the formulas that were used to say this is how many directors are going to be there.
No worries, Kevin.
all I can say is, if there's a problem, let's fix it. And when it comes to change, so here's the thing: I actually embrace change, but I'm not an advocate of change for the sake of change, and there is a difference. And so instead, I put on my realtor hat. We are problem solvers. At the end of the day, we solve problems. And so when problems are identified, challenges are identified, let's find the opportunities. And if there needs to be a fix, okay, then let's put together a well documented conversation, have a conversation and say, this is what we need to do to right the wrong, to fix the problem. And so I'm open to having those types of conversations. I am today, I will be tomorrow and beyond.
Well, thank you for that. Now we're going to make sure we circulate your information to everybody who's attended today. And we'd like to give you a chance to leave us with a final thought.
Well, I've already given you my cell phone number. I do want to thank the New York State Association of Realtors. Just within the last 2 weeks, I received the endorsement of the New York Association. So I'd like to thank you all as national directors for the support, the confidence that you have in me and my campaign. I've really enjoyed over the last 15 years working with the New York State Association of Realtors in my different committee and leadership positions, and the Long Island Board of Realtors. I've overseen many of the Realtor Party programs, the grants, and funding, where I know that Long Island Board has taken advantage of them for campaign-related services and RPAC and all of those things. So I've really enjoyed the relationship that I've had with New York Realtors. And so thank you for that. I've given you my cell phone number. I just love the collaboration that we've been able to have. You know, you're my neighbor to the south. It's an easy drive. I've been to New York many times for different events. And, you know, we're in a relationship business. I think about Jerry Giovanello, our former chief lobbyist, and he says, you know, you need to build the relationships before you need them. And I feel that the service that I've put in for our association over the last 24 years has allowed me to establish relationships before I needed them. But don't get me wrong, I do need them now. And I'm asking you today, after thanking you for the state endorsement, I'm asking you for your vote on May 6th. I sit here today, almost done with the campaign. We've got about 6 weeks left. It's been a great experience, but I'm looking forward to really getting to work and to rolling up my shirt sleeves, as I said earlier, and getting the job done. So on May 6th, President Kevin and the Long Island Board of Realtors, the national directors, I am asking for your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin Sears. And that concludes our sessions today. We'll make sure that everybody who attended gets the follow-up information they need on the candidates, and we look forward to you being informed and ready to vote on May 6th. Thank you all.